space, we're very fortunate to work with suppliers who not only provide us with products and services to make our organizations better, but who truly act as partners in making the industry better. At Association Trends, we're lucky to work with many of these vendors, either directly as a customer, as with Beacon Live, Naylor, and Chuck Fazio, or as partners to provide research and educational content, as we do with Wesleyan and Schlager, GKG Law, and the Novik Group. These suppliers fulfill a vital role in all of our organizations, whether it's investment strategies like SunTrust to help us navigate an audit like Aronson, or to help members communicate with one another 24/7 like Higher Logic. Behind each of these organizations powering our progress are outstanding individuals, and that is what the Partner of the Year Award is all about. I know many in this room and many beyond it have advanced not only because of the services that Delcor provides, but because of the knowledge, expertise, and partnership so freely shared by its leader. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome this year's Association Partner of the Year, Loretta DeLuca, founder and CEO of Delcor Technology Solutions.
Wow, you guys are making it really tough. Thank you. First, I want to congratulate Dawn and all the other award recipients. It's really awesome to be sharing the stage with all of you. Dawn, perhaps this will be a reason for you and I to get together finally. I've heard so many great things about you, and the National Restaurant Association is not yet a client, so I really want to thank Association Trends, Ed and Jamie and Joel and everybody else who selected me. I mean, I'm looking out onto the crowd, and you guys are the best of the best, and so I sort of wonder why I'm standing here, but I'm appreciative of it nonetheless. The last time I was up on stage, I didn't prepare a speech, and so this time I have a 32-page dissertation that I'm planning to read to you. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't prepare a speech this time either. And I'm really thinking whether this was the right choice again, because I'm particularly nervous today because my mother and father are here. They're visiting from Italy. And this is the first time in over 30 years that they have ever been to anything that I've ever done from a business perspective. I think they know that I have a job because they've visited my office before, but and maybe after today they think that this is what I do all the time or something. I don't know. And also I'm a little freaked out because my daughter is here. She surprised me by walking into this room this morning. I wasn't expecting her to be here. She's supposed to be sitting in a 3-hour finance class right now at Babson College. I figured this was a better alternative for her, so it's amazing that she's here and that I'm able to share this with her. You guys are just amazing and so special to me, and I really appreciate it. And so having my family here and Rob, who is also here and puts up with me through thick and thin, I just appreciate you guys so much. So I really believe in the none of us is as great as great as all of us concept, and that's why I accept this award really on behalf of Delcor. I mean, people think that Delcor and I are one and the same, and I guess we are in a lot of ways, but the truth is that there's a lot more to Delcor than just me, and I'm telling you that I would never have been standing here if it wasn't for my partners Dave Corial and Brian Sheehan. And all of the Delcorians, you guys are amazing, and you make me so proud to be part of Delcor, and I'm honored to work with you on a daily basis, and you guys are amazing. This award is particularly relevant because the vision of Delcor is to be the model partner to our clients, which happens to be all associations and nonprofits. So getting this award is so meaningful to us because that's what we're all about. So thank you so much, everybody in Delcor. You know, again, you guys are great. So because I'm the one who's standing here, though, and not all of Delcor, I guess I can make this all about me. I was thinking, the fact that I didn't prepare a speech, you know, I think about the fact that I tell Michaela, like, always be prepared for everything. I'm not being a very good example right now. Just do as I say, not as I do, Michaela. But I was thinking about my history and how I made it in the association world. I've never had another full-time job in my whole life. And I think it's been through a series of fateful events, let's say. People say to me, wow, you must have worked so hard and had so much courage to start this business right out of college, and you were a woman in technology. And, you know, because I don't know any different, this is all I know. I guess I worked hard or had courage, but I don't really look at it that way. The way I look at people who worked hard and had courage are really my parents. And I want to kind of do a shout out to them because if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be standing here. Now, I know that's obvious, but I mean it sort of in a different way. I mean because they made some decisions in their lives which showed tremendous courage, and they worked their butts off. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. They kind of started me on my fateful journey into the association world, believe it or not. So my parents came over here in the mid-50s. They got married and then came to the United States, to Washington, D.C., a year apart from each other. My dad had heard of an opportunity to come here from his aunt who was already here in D.C. A couple days after he made that decision, he got a phone call from somebody in Bologna, Italy, near where they're from, who said, hey, we've accepted your application to work here. And he, you know, stood with his decision to come to D.C., and he didn't take the job in Bologna. And it's kind of weird because I've always loved Bologna. Ever since I was a little girl going to Italy, I thought, God, I would love Bologna. I could live in Bologna. So actually, had he taken a different fork in the road, I would have been living in Bologna. So that's the first part of my fateful journey. You know, once they got here, it's funny because I had dinner with Mark Dorsey, and I mentioned that I was born in D.C., a few blocks away, right on I Street, like 3 blocks away at Doctor's Hospital, so right near ASAE. So he said, well, you were born into the business. So not really, but that was kind of a freaky coincidence too. Anyway, so my parents worked very hard. My dad could only speak English and French when he came here, and he was a chauffeur and any other job that he could do for various embassies. My mother cleaned and ironed and did all kinds of stuff so that we could, so that they would be able to have a life here. And I learned so much from them. My dad couldn't afford to buy a car, so he rode a motorcycle everywhere. And it was so cold some winters here that he, you know, having done some blacksmith work in Italy when he was there, he built these copper shields and bolted them to the motorcycle so that his knees wouldn't freeze when he was going to work and coming home and everything. And so they used to work during the day and then serve dinner at night at embassies and for, you know, wealthy families having dinners, etc. And then, you know, one day he had enough money to buy a house, and he bought his car in cash. And, you know, this is what I call really, you know, working hard and having a lot of courage to do something like that. So I'm so appreciative of them. So going back, thank you. So going back to the whole fate part of this, you know, when I was a kid, I'm sure the power of A was working all around me, but I wasn't aware of it at that time. The only knowledge of associations that I had was when I used to go to the AAA office with my dad to get maps. And one day when I was 20 years old, I was living at home with my parents, and I got this envelope from the AARP. And I was like, that's weird. Why am I getting this? And too bad Delcor wasn't around at the time to help them with their database. But it wasn't until then I went to when I was in college, I was taking my very last undergrad class called Business Policies. And I didn't want to take this class because it was my very last class that I had to take to graduate, and I wanted to maintain my GPA, and it was a group project, and I hated group projects. And I said to the professor, well, I've got to leave to go to Italy, because that was the summer that my parents were retiring to go back to Italy. And so he said, well, what you can do is you can write a paper that combines your major, which was marketing, Europe, since you're going there, and my area of interest. He was going for his PhD in association management. I was like, oh God, how am I going to do that? What is an association? So I ended up writing this paper, so that's what this is. I dug it up, and it says it's the role of trade associations in promoting industry goods and services in the international market. Now, I had no idea what I was doing at that time. But it's kind of funny because I started to read through it, and some of it is so relevant, so please bear with me here for a moment. It talks about American business today facing one of the toughest challenges it's been confronting with for several years, survival in a fiercely competitive global market, particularly relevant in this increasing role of exportation and aiding American businesses in becoming competitive marketers internationally. This paper explores the functions of trade associations in helping to promote their industries, goods, and services in international markets. Even more specifically, it will emphasize the high technology industries, an area of rapid advancement. So it's kind of funny because I interviewed this guy from the Department of Commerce or something, and he said, oh my God, I have to find it, I'm so sorry. Hold on. He said, all right, Ed Chapman said, the hard part is our work with associations, because they are just not involved in international, and it's like pulling teeth to get them involved. We're in the role of begging and pleading. So I thought that was kind of funny. I met this guy and interviewed him, Bob Boge, I think his name is, from ASAE, and he was talking about how high tech was the area that was going to be most in going into the international market, and how any high-tech association was going to be there ahead of the game. So the funny part about all of this is that I wrote this paper, I got my A, and a few months later, I started my business. Now, I had no intention of working with associations. They kind of went out of my mind for a while. And I started doing database development work for anybody who would have me do it. And then I started working at Georgetown University's campus. And through them, started getting some phone calls from educational associations that were affiliated with Georgetown, and sort of never looked back. So here I was, having written a paper about technology and associations and et cetera, and now I had a business that was in associations dealing with technology. So come on, that's pretty fateful. If you know, that's the way I look at it anyway. So if any of you are interested in reading the rest of this paper, it's a bestseller on Amazon. So anyway, so back to being here. I mean, I couldn't think of a better, more meaningful world to have had my career in. You know, we at Delcor love, giving back to the community, and you guys have been my mentors, you've been my colleagues, and many of you are my friends, and that just means so much to me. I've had people ask me, why don't you just go into the commercial or government markets? And I say, why would I? This is my place. I would never go anywhere else. Besides, we haven't begun to do work for all of the associations in their space. There's so much more to do. So that's a call to action, by the way. But really, I can't tell you how much I appreciate this, and being here in front of all of you who are just really great examples for what you represent. And thank you again, Association Trends, and everyone.